So good day everyone. So welcome to this presentation. So today I will be discussing to you about the teaching methodologies and accommodations and modifications, as well as the teaching materials for students with gifts and talents. So so that would be our topic outline. So as I have said, the methods of teaching the gifted and talented, the accommodations and modifications, or called as the strategies, and then the instructional materials for students with gifts and talents. Introduction. So we have known that students with gifts and talents has this higher ability than their peers. So given their characteristics, there should be a higher instructional content, meaning to say there should be a higher level of instruction for them so that their learning needs be accommodated in the classroom. And since they have this high ability in their class, so teachers should devise methods and strategies and materials that will match that high ability. So as you can see here, gifted learners need to work at a higher instructional levels and at a faster pace. So they have this um, given that they have this high ability and they can accomplish things faster than their peers. So teachers need to have these techniques, these strategies, these methods so that these group of students, the gifted and the talented learners, won't be bored in the classroom. Because imagine if you are, let's put this in this way, if you are a learner from a ballet class and you're talented on dancing ballet, for example, and your classmates don't know yet the basics, but you have already mastered that. And since your classmates don't get yet the basic skills or the basic dance steps, so your instructor keep on teaching the whole group with the basics. And given you that you have already mastered the basics, you will be bored. You will be frustrated because I got that already. What will I do now? So tendency, you will drop the subject, you will drop the class, and then find another advanced course for a ballet dance. So that's a basic analogy. What is the impact of um, teaching students with gifts what they have already mastered? Okay, so that's the basic rationale for that. So we are giving them a higher instructional level in in a faster pace. So now, in what elements of learning do methods and strategies of teaching the gifted take place? So remember, we have these curricular elements on which we can adjust so that we can accommodate these children with gifts and talents. Okay, so curricular adaptations can occur in the learning environment. So where does the learning takes place? Okay, do we need to change it so that we can accommodate the learners with gifts and talents? Next, the content. So are there necessary changes on the content or the lessons, the units, or the objectives we should teach for children with gifts and talents? Do we need to change that? Is it necessary? And the last component of curriculum is the process. The process would talk about how the content, the objectives are delivered to students with gifts and talents. So our main question will be, how will the instructional process be modified, be adjusted so that we can accommodate to the needs, the learning needs of students with gifts and talents. And As you can see here, these are the main elements of the curriculum, and those changes in the curriculum for gifted students call for a differentiated instruction. So all the changes that we are applying to these curricular elements through methods and strategies, okay, would be a necessary call for differentiated instruction. And let's have a short glimpse what is differentiated instruction is, because this would be our overall or overarching teaching principle to teaching students with gifts and talents. Um, um, in a nutshell, this is our backbone, the differentiated instruction as a principle of all the methods and strategies and all the adaptations that we are applying for students with gifts and talents. And what is differentiated instruction? Okay, so differentiated instruction is an approach. Okay, so approach meaning this is a teaching belief, teaching philosophy, teaching principle wherein teachers adjust the curriculum so that it will maximize the learning of all students, and all means all. Okay, E- even if it's a student in the regular education, student with disabilities, students with foreign origin, and etc. All means all. So this is an overarching principle wherein the teachers need to adjust the curriculum and instruction so that all learners will benefit from teaching and learning will be maximized. Okay? So when you begin the differentiated instruction, there are three main instructional elements that the teachers need to adjust so that the needs of the learners will be met. So we have the content. Okay? Content is the knowledge and skills that students need to master. We have the process. Okay, the process is the learning activities, the teaching and learning activities that's happening in the classroom so that the content will be delivered. So it talks about how the teacher delivers the content, what is the environment, the learning environment to carry out the content or the objectives, and lastly, the product. The product refers to the activities for assessment. Okay, so those are the three curricular elements that need to be adjusted so that the needs of the learners, specifically learners with gifts and talents, be met in the regular education classroom, because most of them, students with gifts and talents, are learning or placed in the Gen Ed classroom. Okay, and differentiated instruction is such a powerful framework, teaching framework, teaching approach, so that the needs of these learners will be met. So differentiating instruction involves making changes to one or more of these curricular elements. So either a teacher adjust or differentiate the content or the product or one of them. So either, okay? And there is no prescribed way to differentiate instruction. What the teacher needs to remember is that differentiation will occur dependent on the needs of his or her students. So, as a teacher, applying differentiation in the classroom, you need to look first on the learning needs of your students before you differentiate, okay? Because that would be your basis, okay? Basis of differentiated. So, how would you create a change if you don't know what shall be changed. Okay, so that's a simple analogy. Okay, so you need to know first what are the needs of your students, especially these students with gifts and talents. Okay, what are the learning needs to be accommodated in the classroom, and then afterwards you apply differentiation of instruction in either in content, process, or product, or all of them will do. Okay, so now let's move on to the methods of teaching gifted and talented learners. So now we're going to discuss one by one the specific methods of teaching these students in the classroom. So the first one would be acceleration. So I think you have heard of it many times when it comes to the literature about teaching students with gifts and talents. And let's talk about what's acceleration really is. So it's a practice of providing students with higher than normal level of instruction to meet their learning needs, and it the word itself defines what is the basic um, characteristic of acceleration. So when you say accelerate, 'di ba? Bibilisan. Okay? Because of these high ability, given that these students has high ability, so either the content of their curriculum could be accelerated also. Pwedeng mabilisan din yung pag-take nila. Okay? So acceleration doesn't necessarily means grade skipping, because usually this is the notion of most of the teachers and also the parents na kapag acceleration, ngayon kinder siya, baka in the second quarter ano na siya, grade 1. Okay? Though that concept is right, but acceleration doesn't necessarily means grade skipping only. Okay? Instead, acceleration is a family of options that range from the modest to more intensive educational treatments. Parang from subtle na option into um, intensive, or parang mas intense yung instructional support na binibigay sa bata. So it's a range, it's array of options, okay? And Cole, Angelo, Asolin, and Gross and Stanley provided forms of acceleration options. Okay, so let's take a look of them. Okay, so we have, okay, so as you can see here, so we have a table, table 1, the types of acceleration. So yung nakikita natin dito, yon may early admission, yun yung mostly na ano na notion natin sa acceleration, yung grade-based acceleration. But there's so many pala. We have subject matter acceleration. Okay, so subject-centered naman yung acceleration niya. Okay, hindi lang pala grade-based yung pwede maging acceleration. We have telescoping, we have combined classes here. Ayan. We have the curriculum compacting. In fact, we will discuss curriculum compacting later. Okay. And we have advanced placement. Okay. So to define a few, so this one, early school admission. So the intellectually and socially mature child is allowed to enter kindergarten at a younger than normal age. Ito yung minsan na scenario sa atin that mga 4 years old or 3.5 years old ay ipinapasok na sa preschool because they have this ability already to get along with the curriculum itself. Yan. So, skipping grades, ayan. What is accelerated is the grade of the student. So, yan, common scenario din sa atin yan, na kapag nakita na gifted yung student and alam niya na yung curriculum, for example, in grade 1, so school, the school can decide already na pwede na siyang i-accelerate into another grade level. And also telescoping. Okay, so the child covers the standard material but in less time. So dito naman, ang acceleration is not grade-based but content-based naman siya. Okay, so for example, a teacher has a unit for Unit 1 in the subject science. Ang Unit 1 is about knowing your body parts. And upon assessment, nakita ng teacher na the child has this enough mastery of that unit. So, pwedeng i-assess yung bata, and then pag na-validate dun sa assessment na talagang mastered yun na, ibang unit niya yung iti-take niya. Even though yung classmates niya, yung pinag-aaralan is yung about body parts pa rin. Okay? Okay, so next we have here advanced placement. So the student takes courses for college credit while still in high school, shortening the college program. So at the same time, yung bata maybe nasa third year or fourth year usually in the high school program. And then at habang nasa high school siya, nagte-take na siya ng some units sa college so that uh, the years na dedicated for college education would be shortened. Okay? Next is the dual enrollment in high school and college. Okay? So, ito matindi. So, we have enrolled ka sa college while finishing in high school. Parang ito kasi yung sa advanced placement credit, you are not officially enrolled in college, pero yung credit mo sa college, pinag-aaralan mo na siya sa high school. So pag bigay mo ng transcript sa college is maki-credit siya, parang ganon. Dito sa dual enrollment in high school and college, so officially enrolled ka sa high school, officially enrolled ka rin sa college. Okay? And then, early college admission. So, early admission, okay, and from the word itself na even in a younger age, you can enter in the college already if you have mastered the secondary education curriculum. Okay, so that would be all for acceleration. So the basic premise as we review acceleration is that the student will make an advanced leap through the curriculum. Either it is a content-based or subject-based acceleration. Okay, so magkakaroon siya ng advancement doon sa lessons or contents na tinitake niya, or it could be a grade-based acceleration, meaning yung grade level niya yung mag-a-advance. Okay, so that would be all for acceleration. Next is flexible grouping. Okay, and this strategy brings students with gifts together for learning so that they can go at an advanced pace and be stimulated by others of like ability. So the practice of grouping and flexible grouping is that grouping of students with gifts all together. And according to National Association for Gifted Children, flexible grouping strategies allow gifted students access to appropriate levels of challenge and complexity because if if the teacher group them all together, so most likely the material or the content or the process that they will have on that group will be different uh, from their peers in the general education classroom. Meaning to say, what will undertook on their group will be at a higher or advanced level. That's why being used to applying flexible grouping in your classroom will challenge students with gifts and talents to do more and have this appropriate challenge for them. So we have several groups of grouping strategies. Number one is the within class ability grouping. So it means heterogeneous grouping. So halo-halo. So for example, we have a class of 30 and meron doong one or two learners identified as a gifted and talented learner. Okay. So it's possible within class ability grouping that they are heterogeneously grouped to the kids or children of the peers. Okay. So though it's heterogeneous grouping, okay, most of gifted learners find the instructional process as slow-paced in the within class ability grouping because mas madami yung non-gifted learners kaysa sa gifted learners. Okay? And pinapractice dito yung heterogeneity. Okay? Yung pagkakaiba-iba. Lalo na the trend now is to have a grouping that represent all ability groups. Okay? So, para lahat um, matututo sa isa't isa. Okay? Since the instructional piece here within class ability grouping is set as the prototype or the norm, so most of gifted learners find it slow pace. So, nagre-result sa boredom. Okay? And it might result to underachieving gifted learners kasi nga slow-paced yung flow of instruction. Eh, sa kanila nga, they need a higher level of instruction at the same time since they can do things quickly. So, mabilis din yung advancement nila. Okay? Gano'n. So, gano'n yung nangyayari sa within class ability grouping. But, good thing is, merong heterogeneity. May pagkakaiba-iba. So, may times din na natutulungan ng mga gifted learners yung average and then below average learners. Next is the pull-out grouping. So, gifted students from different classes meet all together regularly to receive advanced content. So, as the definition says, so gifted learners from different classes, okay, so they are sent for um, pull out services, okay, in a portion of their school time so that their learning needs be accommodated. So usually enrichment activities ang binibigay sa kanila sa pull out grouping. Okay. Next, we have the full-time ability grouping. So students are in the same group for most of the day and remain together throughout school year. So sila-sila yung mga gifted learners in a class. They were grouped homogeneously, and then minsan yung teacher on that time lang sila magkaka-group tapos iba na naman, or uh, meron naman na talagang sila na talaga from the very first day till the end of the school year yung magkakasama. So, if that's the case, it would be a full-time ability grouping. Kasi most of the time sila yung magkakasama. Next, we have the cluster grouping. So, top 5% of high ability group is placed in a heterogeneous classroom. So, dito merong mga classes, okay, in a school. For example, you have 5 sections, okay? And then, dati kasi uso yung class with the homogeneous class yung tinatawag nilang star section, okay? So, in cluster grouping, yung top 5%, okay, on that star section, they are placed, okay, in other sections that has homogeneous heterogeneous groupings naman. Okay? So from that uh, section or class with gifted learners, okay? So some are selected to be placed in a heterogeneous classroom for a part of the school day. Okay? So either in one or two subjects tapos babalik sila dun sa base classroom nila. Okay? And number five is independent work grouping. So it involves one or two students working on a well-designed independent project, interning in a professional setting, or associating with an adult mentor. So ito, um, either one student, a gifted student, or pair sila. Okay? Yun lang yung grouping nila. So, in short, it's a very limited grouping technique or strategy, and the purpose is for them to carry out some project, independent self-paced project. Okay? Yun yung purpose kaya bakit sila onte, because it's a specialized project that needs to be done uh, each by each of um, gifted learner or at least pair of them. Okay, so merong times na they have this mentorship or apprenticeship sa mga professionals or sa mga teachers or mentoring naman. Okay, sa mga teachers or experts. Okay, so pwedeng experts in the field that they have this the project, or a teacher that will help them to carry out the independent project self-paced learning. Okay, so next is curriculum compacting. Okay, so as I have said a while ago, we will discuss this curriculum compacting separately. Okay, so if students already know something and have the basic skills to apply the knowledge, they should be allowed to move on to other areas of learning. So that is the basic premise of curriculum compacting. Kasi nga, why would you give mastered content to a child who has already mastered it? Okay? So it would be nonsense. So it's fit and proper for teachers to give another higher or advanced content. Okay, so that the skills and the ability of these students with gifts and talents will be uh, utilized. So the National Association for Gifted Children defines compacting as a technique for differentiating instruction that allows teachers to make adjustments to curriculum for students who have already mastered the material to be learned, replacing content. Okay, so it's emphasized replacing content students know with new content, enrichment options, or activities. Okay, so the student needs to show an evidence of his learning before he moves to another content. Because there are sometimes na in the curriculum or a subject area, there are content there or units na beforehand mastered na ng bata. Okay? So, why would you give that the very same content to the child kung alam niya na? So, you need to compact. Ibig sabihin ng compact, pag iisahin yung mga units or lessons or contents na alam niya na, okay? And then, the student needs to be assessed on those mastered, okay, contents, okay? Since sinabi dito na the student needs to show an evidence, okay? So, i-compact mo yung mga content na alam niya na, tapos i-assess mo yung bata for mastery on those contents, and then when the assessment validates that the child has already mastered those compacted contents, that's the time that the teacher will replace the content. Okay? Papalitan niya na. Okay? Either it could be enrichment, okay, or total replacement of the content. Okay, so enrichment and acceleration of content, we will discuss that afterwards. Okay, so that's the basic premise. Again, you will compact. Okay, pagsasama-samahin mo, aalamin mo kung ano yung mga content na alam na ng kid. And then once you have compacted the contents, you will assess the child for mastery. And once mastery has been recorded, okay, for those skills, yeah, and content, then that's the time that you will replace the content. Okay, bring it to a higher level. Now, uh, after showing mastery of the content, so there are two ways to move the content. So let's see it in the diagram slide. So here we have content advancement, and it could be done in two ways. Okay, so you can have content enrichment or content acceleration. Pwedeng maging ganun yung um, magiging advancement ng content ng bata. So let's talk about content enrichment here. So content enrichment is providing a greater depth and breadth to learning. Okay? So basically, you are not giving him or her a totally different content. Rather, you are giving the child or the learner with a deeper understanding, or the contents would deal with deeper understanding of the unit or the lesson. Okay? So, for example, you applied curriculum compacting, and then na-master na ng bata na yung Unit 1 for Science, the body parts of the body. Okay? Alam niyo na. Pero, in your assessment, you have observed also na medyo kailangan niya pa ng deeper understanding about for example, the functions of the body. So, from that detail, or um, detail from the assessment result, so you will go for a content enrichment. So, nandun pa rin kayo sa unit na yon, sa content na yon, na body parts, pero iba na yung focus mo. Your focus is all about um, learning about the functions or use of the different body parts. Okay? So, aside from the functions of different body parts, pwede mong i-inject maybe the different organ systems of the body. Okay? To make learning in a deeper sense. Kumbaga, that's the very essence of content enrichment. You are not giving a totally different content, yet you are giving a deeper understanding, a content that deals with deeper understanding of the same unit. Okay? Now, let's talk about content acceleration. So, acceleration is different from enrichment, whereas in acceleration, advancing through the curriculum at a faster pace. So, dito, ibibigay mo na yung totally different content dun sa bata. After assessment, nakita mo na talagang master na ng bata yung content na yon. So, you can give a totally different content so that the child can advance in the curriculum. So, for example, let's use the mastery of the child in the body parts. Alam niya na yung uses ng basic body parts. Okay? Meron na rin siyang knowledge, mastery of knowledge on the systems of the body. So, you will go on now on, for example, units about animals naman. Okay? So uh, um, that describes how content acceleration occurs in the curriculum of children with gifts and talent. So these are the two ways on how we advance the content, either content enrichment or content acceleration. Now we will have content sophistication. Okay. So content sophistication challenges students who have gifts to use higher levels of thinking to understand ideas that average students of the same age would find difficult or impossible to comprehend. And the objective of sophisticating the content is to encourage children who have gifts to understand important abstractions, scientific laws, or general principles that can be applied in many circumstances. In simpler words, content sophistication talks about deepening the um, the content or the topic that you are discussing with students with gifts and talents. Kumbaga, you are not dealing only on the surface level, but you are bringing the content into a deeper understanding. For example, you're discussing the concept of change as a philosophical inquiry. Okay, so you in that sense, okay, so you're not only defining change, what is change, okay, so you're not defining only change as it is, but you are asking the students what is change in a philosophical point of view. Okay, so you are challenging students to use their um critical thinking skills to give the teacher a sophisticated interpretation of the content that you're talking about, and that is the concept of change and how does change affects the emotional well-being of a person. Okay, so what are the implications of having different concepts of change? Okay, so in short, you are bringing the topic in a deeper sense. Okay, hence the term sophistication. Maiba ng konti, sophisticado. Diba? Hindi yung bababaw, hindi yung surface level, but in a deeper sense. Okay? And the goal of being sophisticated in content or applying content sophistication is that you want your gifted learners use their insights, their knowledge, okay, so that it can be applied in real life. Okay, so let's go back here in the example, talking about the concept of change in a philosophical point of view. I'm sure different students with gifts will define change in very different ways. And the end point of this using content sophistication is how are you going to apply those learnings, those insights in real life. That would be the ultimate goal of sophisticating the content. Okay? Para hindi lang malimit sa knowledge or sa brain ng bata yung learning na natutunan niya through content sophistication, but it should also transcend to the real world. Okay? So that's the ultimate goal of content sophistication. Okay, now connected to sophisticating the content, 'di ba? So we have talked about na in content sophistication, the teacher challenges the students, the gifted learners to think critically, okay? And it would be possible for a teacher to challenge the students with gifts and talents to use their critical thinking through using of higher order thinking. Okay, so as you can see here, so we have studied in our pre-service education about assessment of learning. Okay, and one domain is the cognitive domain. Okay, so assessment of cognitive domain. And we, I bet we already met this pyramid here. Okay, the Bloom's taxonomy of cognitive domain. Okay, so for us teachers to utilize use of higher order thinking, we need to uh, refer to this magnificent pyramid by Benjamin Bloom, which was revised by Anderson and Krathwohl. And as you can see here, remembering, understanding, and applying, these are widely known as the lower order thinking skills. Okay? By lower order thinking skills, we mean that they are not important. We don't mean that they are not important. Rather, lower order thinking skills are those skills that need to understand the basics of information. Okay? But they are in the lower order. Thus the term lower order kasi nasa baba nga sila. Okay? And this upper three, analyze, evaluate, and create, these are widely known as the higher order thinking skills. Okay? So the HOTS. Okay? So analyze, evaluate, and create levels of thinking. These are the levels wherein students uh, think critically, use their innate knowledge so that they can compare things. Okay? Yun yung ginagawa sa analysis, sa analyze. They compare things and then they make connections or patterns. Okay? So, kailangan mo maging critical doon. Then, you make a decision about something. Okay? By comparing things, you make a decision. Okay? That's what you're going to do in the evaluation level. And then, um, if the situation demands, you will use your critical thinking to think of a novel strategy, a new thing that will solve the problem. That's what you are using when you are in the creating level of the cognitive process. Now, one goal for gifted students is to generate information from existing knowledge, and therefore, higher order thinking is needed to create new knowledge. So, one challenge for them is to create something, okay, from what is existing. In fact, as you can see here in the pyramid, creating is the highest form of thinking. And thus, that would be our ultimate goal for students with giftedness and talent, that they think, use their higher order thinking skills for them to produce something new, okay, from what is available, okay, available information and details, okay. So if we are going to devise questioning using the higher order thinking, so we need to see this pyramid or the taxonomy of cognitive process by Bloom. Now, how do teachers promote higher order thinking? So there are two general thinking skills related to higher order thinking. We have the critical thinking and we have the creative thinking. Though they might be the same in construct, but they have this quite difference between critical thinking and creative thinking. So let's go first here in critical thinking. When you say critical thinking, it's involved in the judgment, analysis, and synthesis. Okay, so it highly relates doon sa uh, analysis, evaluating, and creating parts of the pyramid dun sa cognitive process, no? And there are critical skills, okay, that Halpern outlined so that critical thinking be carried out. So you have verbal reasoning skills, argument analysis skills, hypothesis testing, likelihood and uncertainty, meaning your ability to discern if that situation will have a likely result or not, and decision making and problem solving skills. So those are the skills, okay? So set of skills that a person need so that he can carry out critical thinking, okay? Kasi nga in critical thinking, you need to be stringent on the processes that you are using, because you need to create judgment, you need to compare things, look for the patterns and analyze, and you need to create something. Okay? So that's critical thinking. Parang in critical thinking, you use it when you are investigating, having an inquiry-based teaching, like that. Now, in creative thinking, so there is a balance between logic and imagination. In critical thinking, parang the base or the main point in thinking critically is you are finding something, you're being critical about the processes that you're using. Here in creative thinking, yes, you are using critical thinking also, but you are also considering the the power of your imagination, hence the term balance between logic and imagination. Okay, so you are thinking outside of the box, you are able to create or think of something because of the logic, okay, of the critical thinking, and also the imagination side of your brain. So there are four behaviors that are associated with creativity. First is fluency. This is your ability to generate, explain, develop, and express ideas or solutions in your unique way. Okay? So, um, gifted learners might be fluent, okay, in their thinking if they are able to convert sophisticated details into digestible details. Okay, so maybe it could be characterized by making simple graphs of their details, or maybe making bulleted outline of their thinking processes, their thoughts. Okay, so if a child is able to express or generate idea from a sophisticated source into um, understandable detail or content, then he is fluent to creative thinking. Next, flexibility. So generating ideas in different ways. Okay, so when it comes in flexibility, behavior or creative thinking, um, the child is challenged to solve a problem not only in one specific way, but in different ways. Okay? And if a child is able to express that, then he is flexible enough to think of different ways, okay? Creative ways to deal with the problem, because remember that students with gifts and talents will be focusing on divergent thinking, meaning there are so many ways to solve one problem instead of convergent thinking, meaning there's only one answer for a problem. Okay, so next behavior that is associated with creative thinking is originality. So originality is the way how we respond in an unusual or unique way. So, if your child, the gifted learner, is solving problems or making products that are out of the box, okay, unique in nature. So he has imbibed the uh, originality of thinking relative to creative thinking. And next is elaboration. So other ideas and details are added to the reasoning. It's like, can you tell me more about this one? Can you give other details above your given explanations? So, if your child is able to satisfy those conditions, then indeed the child uh, can elaborate his thinking and was able to embody creative thinking. So, these are behaviors that characterizes or um, characterizes or manifestations that a child is indeed a creative thinker. And critical thinking and creative thinking are uh, have this interplay when we use it in everyday lives. What more to students with gifts and talents? So critical thinking and creative thinking are both used by these learners, and by making or creating activities that will utilize critical thinking and creative thinking, teachers of gifted learners promotes then higher order thinking. Okay, so another method of teaching the gifted learners is through tiered questioning. So we have talked about the use of higher order thinking in teaching them, and one way of teaching these higher order thinking and integrating higher order thinking skills in the teaching learning process is through questions. And oftentimes these children with gifts and talents need to be asked of good questions. And what are good questions? Okay, so good questions stimulate further thought. It makes them to think critically of their answers. It's thought provoking for them. It's like when they hear the question, they will think of it many times, okay, and then they dig deeper to answer it. It motivates action. Good questions motivate action. It's like when you ask them the question, they will think, and then uh, they will be motivated to create something, to have something like a product or a demonstration of their learning or evidence of their thought process that will solve the problem. Next, it excites the learner with possibilities. So these good questions are um, igniting the creative thinking skills of these students, these gifted students. Next, these questions make students think, pause, and reflect. Okay, that's why good questions are thought provoking, stimulate further thought, and they make students to think beyond facts and use knowledge to solve, analyze, and evaluate. So, good questions utilize the available basic facts, and these facts are indeed used by gifted learners to um, evaluate, to analyze, to solve. In simpler words, they utilize higher order thinking skills using the basic evidences or basic facts, okay, that the question has provoked them to answer. And one way to tier questions, meaning when you tier questions, there are questions that suited for the ability groups in the classroom. So in this case, we are talking about questions that will suit to students with gifts and talents. So meaning, in a higher level, yung mga questions nila. And you can do this through leveling the questions. Okay? And uh, most of the questions, the good questions that the teachers of the gifted learners ask to them often start from why, how, and which. Okay, so we're going to talk leveling the question a bit further later. So let's have some examples of these questions, the why, how, and which, and what are the processes um, that they look after to a gifted learner. Okay, here. So when you ask why, diba? When a teacher asks why to you, he is seeking um reasons, okay, explanations behind. Okay, so when you ask a gifted learner of why questions, it actually tickles or motivates them to use their higher order thinking skills because it will make them to use the basic facts that they know, and then they will make decisions. Okay, they will make decisions on those facts to give reasons or explanations. Okay, so why questions scrutinize cause and effect relationships. Okay, so it also makes students analyze things. Okay, so that they can have these valid reasons. Now, if you are asking the gifted learner how questions, so it's like you are asking about the process of making into this information. Okay? So, questions that begin with how aid in problem-solving situations. Kung yung why, it looks after reasons, explanations, and also relationships, cause and effect relationships. How questions seeks problem-solving solutions. Okay? And then, it involves synthesis. Okay? So, you will create now. Okay, so see how these questions correspond with the higher order thinking levels in Bloom's taxonomy of cognitive process, thought process. Okay, so when you ask how, it involves synthesizing. You need to you are looking after how the gifted learner will give a solution to the problem. Next, with questions that begins with which, so it tells us to make a decision, a decision making. So they require one to compare evidence or clearly stated criteria in the process of making choices. So again, the higher order thinking skills are used here when you ask the child with which questions. So they were able to analyze things, they compare and contrast, and from that they will make a judgment. So they will evaluate which one will satisfy the question. So the which, the how, and the why, all of these questions are usually asked in the regular classroom. And more often, teachers should ask these kind of questions to students with gifts and talent. Because we're going back to the basic premise that these questions um, help to enhance their higher order thinking skills. Now, we have mentioned a while ago the leveling of questions. So how do teachers level questions? So First, you need to consider the readiness of the child. Okay, so for learners with gifts and talents, they have high ability. So you will give them uh, questions that are also in high ability level. So the higher order thinking questions. And the construct of the question should match the vocabulary support needed and the thinking ability of the child. So, um, when you present the question itself, it should suit the need or suit the ability of the child, and also it can be presented in a thought-provoking construct or structure, like what I have said. It will start in why, how, or which that will ignite the higher order thinking of the child. And a leveled question still has the same content, but use added support, added context, or more complexity to help the students answer the question. Okay? May mga question na in leveling the questions, yung construct ng ng question iba-iba in different ability groups. However, the question, either they are leveled in different ability groups, it the base or the content of the question are the same in those ability groups. Okay? And questions can be leveled by means of depth and complexity according to Kaplan 2005. Okay, so this is an example of a leveled question. Okay, so as I have said, in leveling the question, uh, you have questions for different ability groups. Okay, and then in leveling the question, it should match the ability of the child. Okay, and having mentioned that, when you match the question to the child, uh, it should be presented in a way that it will aid the child to answer the question. So you will look after the vocabulary, or you will look after the some sort of examples that is injected on the question itself. So let's examine here. The on-grade level question is, how do ocean currents and wind affect the movement of sailboats? Okay, so these are for the average learners. Now, for below grade level, yung mga below average, how do wind and currents move boats across the water? Okay, so for English language learners, the question needs context so they can answer it. So in the ocean, wind and ocean currents make boats move. Tell how. And for the gifted learners, the questions could be like this. Why is it critical for anyone dealing in wind or the ocean to understand the Coriolis effect? So, as you can see here, um, the content or the point that the topic, okay, is all about wind, okay, wind and current. Wind and current yung pinaka-topic ng mga questions. However, the way it was presented in different ability groups are also different. Okay? So, when you see the construct of the questions, okay, let's consider the on grade level question, the below grade level question, and the question for the gifted learners, may iba sa kanila. Like for example, dito sa narrowed questions for the below grade level students. Okay? If you will compare it to learners with gifts and talents, okay? Though they have this the same construct. I mean, uh, although they have this starter, no, higher order think, thinking skills, but the way how the question was asked is deeper for gifted learners than those students with um who are in below grade level ability group. It's like for those who are in the below grade level group, the depth is, or the depth of the topic is in the surface level. Okay, whereas in gifted learners, iba eh. So why is it critical for anyone dealing with wind or the ocean to understand the Coriolis effect? Okay, so there's something that should be in depth pa, compared to students with below grade level. Okay, so that's how you level questions for different ability groups in your class. Now, Kaplan here in 2005 created a model of questioning based on the depth and complexity of the curriculum. Okay? So Kaplan believed that teachers should move gifted students toward more depth and complexity in the curriculum. And these, what are these two contrasting concepts? When you say depth, it's exploration of the curriculum from concrete to abstract, familiar to unfamiliar concepts, from known to unknown. Okay? Meaning to say there is a progression from basic to complex. Okay? And usually depth occurs in the same content. Okay? Where the child is, kung ano yung pinag-aaralan niya. Okay? 'Di ba yung depth is yung direction niya is in it's in a vertical manner. Okay? So pataas, pataas yung kanyang pagkatuto sa isang topic. Whereas complexity, okay, as you can see here, so the direction of complexity side is uh horizontal. Okay? So it indicates wideness. So it stresses the relationship between disciplines, how these relationships changes over time, and how complexity uses a variety of perspectives when looking at issues. If the depth is only concerned about deepening the understanding for one topic, when we say complexity, it is um, um, having complexity on the curriculum by relating it to other content, other disciplines. Okay? Kasi yung depth, it's like, nandun ka lang nakapokus, pinapalalim mo lang. In complexity, you have this particular content, you are referencing to other disciplines to better understand that content that you have. Okay? That's why, yung line niya dito is horizontal. It indicates wideness, the scope. Okay. Now, so there are 8 strategies to guide students to greater depth. Okay. So as we have emphasized, depth, it refers to basic to complex progression of the content that the child is studying or the discipline that he is studying. So we have here 8 strategies, and we're going to go over them briefly. So these strategies by Kaplan, so we have 8 strategies that will guide students to greater depth, and later 3 strategies to lead students for complexity. Okay, so progression of complexity. Now, these icons are developed so that this would be a visual representation, okay, a visual thinking tool that will prompt the child to use that particular strategy when he or she is studying the discipline or the content or the lesson. Okay, so first category is the language of disciplines, refers to the learning of specialized technological terms associated with a specific area of study or discipline. So one way of bringing deepness to studying a discipline or an area or a subject of interest is to learn what are the necessary words, the jargons related to that discipline. So let's take for example our topic for today. So it's all about students with gifts and talents. Okay, gifted learners, talented learners. Okay, so if we're if I am the learner and I'm going to study about it, one strategy is to learn what are the necessary terms, okay, to understand it deeper, okay, because nga depth, it means deeper understanding of the content. So it's like, uh, what does it mean to be, what is the definition of gifted? What is the definition of talented? Okay. What is intelligence? What is multiple intelligences? Oh, so those questions like that will guide the student to have greater depth, okay, through language of discipline. Okay. Next, details. Okay, so it refers to the characteristics, the attributes, the traits that describe a concept, theory, or principle, or a fact. Okay, so if we apply it to studying gifted learners, it's like this. What are the characteristics of gifted learners? Who are they? Cognitively, socially, emotionally. Okay, so you are now digging to the specific details about these learners. Okay, so with those questions, you are actually bringing yourself in a greater depth. Okay. Next, patterns refer to the recurring events represented by details. It's like when you look for certain patterns, certain recurrences inside the topic, the content you are studying, you're bringing greater depth in your area. For example, in our example for gifted learners, when we use the patterns strategy to greater depth, we might ask, do all gifted learners have in common? Do they have common characteristics? Okay. So from that question, uh, me assuming a gifted learner will think, I knew the characteristics from the detail strategy. Okay. Now I will look to the patterns. Do they have in common? Okay. Are all gifted learners have this high intelligence? Something like that. Okay. So it will bring greater depth on your study. Next, trends. The trend strategy refers to the factors that influence the events relative to the content you're studying. So, for example, what are the social or educational factors to identify gifted students? Okay, so uh, trends look after the possible explanations that will give answer to a certain question relative to the content. So, what I have mentioned earlier, what are the social and educational factors to identifying gifted students? Okay, so by answering that, you are utilizing the trends strategies because you are looking factors that influence something in your area of study. Okay, next here we have unanswered questions. So oftentimes when gifted learners dig deeper, they have questions in mind. And when they have questions in mind, they use this strategy, unanswered question strategy. Okay, when they are led to greater depth. So it refers to the ambiguities and gaps of information recognized within an area of discipline or understudy. So for the unit of gifted learners, what we have sampled earlier. So a question might be like this: why some gifted learner become underachievers and some were not? What's the difference? Okay. So along your studying, along your reading, you have these curiosities. And one curiosity in the area of gifted education is There are underachievers, there are students with gifts and talents that they don't be underachievers. Why was that? Anong, what's the difference between them? So that is an example of ambiguity that needs to be dealt with when you dig deeper on the content. Next, rules. The rule strategy refer to the natural or person-made structure or order of things that explain the phenomena within an area of study. So a question could be like this: are there certain rules to follow to identifying gifted learners? Okay, because the rule strategy look after uh, standards, okay, or structure to explain something. Okay, so that's the rule strategy. Next, the ethics strategy, okay, for having a greater depth. So refers to the dilemmas or controversial issues that plague an area of study or discipline. So, for example, an example question is, are intelligence test results have greater impact to determining a gifted learner? How about the skills of that student? Okay. So in the area of gifted education, it's a trend and issue now. Is it only the intelligence test that we need to consider, or only the skills of the student, or both of them? Okay, so by asking that question, we are uh, digging deeper, okay, through the use of ethics strategy and big idea strategy. Refer to the generalizations, principles, and theories that distinguish themselves from the facts and concepts of the area of discipline under studies. Okay, simply put, big ideas are like general questions that um, that are not trivial in nature, but they are the questions that need to be answered so that there could be a clear general perception or general understanding of the content or the area of study. So, for example, how does identifying gifted learners helped our country? So, it's a generalization. Okay, it's a bigger idea that not trivial in nature, but it do utilizes the basic facts that we have gathered to come up with a generalization, okay, or theories that will embody our study of area, or area of study rather. Okay, now we have come here to the three strategies to more complexity. Yung kaninang eight, those are strategies for bringing the gifted learner to greater depth. Ngayon, strategies for complexity naman. And as I have said a while ago, complexity refers to the interconnectedness of your topic to other disciplines. Okay, it's like that. How does your um, topic or content relates with other, scopes other? Okay. Now, we have here the strategies, the overtime strategy. It refers to the understanding of time as an agent of change and recognition that the passage of time changes our knowledge of things. Okay. So, sticking to our topic, which is about gifted learners, gifted and talented learners, one question that will deal with the overtime study is that how will research on gifted education change the identification process of children with gifts and talents? Okay. The overtime strategy regards uh, the element of time as a factor that will influence how a topic will evolve and be conceived by the people. Okay. because knowledge changes over time. And when we are dealing with or when we are after uh, after the child to be led to a greater complexity, so using the overtime strategy will get him into a complex understanding of the topic. Okay, so it will the overtime strategy in a nutshell recognizes time as a crucial factor because time could change knowledge of people. Next, different perspectives. So refer to the concept that there are different viewpoints and that these perspectives alter the way ideas and objects are viewed and valued. Meaning to say, knowledge can be viewed from different perspectives of different people. And if you want to give complexity uh, area of study to your child with gifts and talents, so uh maybe you want to utilize looking the different perspectives of different persons. So for example, sticking to our topic, we might ask who is a gifted learner in different educational systems in the world. Do they have the same criteria of identifying them? Okay. So from these questions, you are asking not only a certain person, but different persons. And from that, you are offering complexity on the topic at hand. Okay? Kasi iba-iba na yung sources of information. And as gifted learners are, uh, are dealing with it, so they need to use their higher order thinking skills to sort out information and then compare and contrast, find patterns. Okay? So that's one way of bringing complexity. And last is the interdisciplinary relationships. Okay? So refer to both integrated and interdisciplinary links in the curriculum. Disciplinary connections can be made within, between, and among various areas of study or disciplines, or simply put, interdisciplinary relationships is making connections of your area of study to other areas of study. Like this gift studying gifted education has connection, has relationship on politics, and if so, what are those relationships? Is gifted education has relationship with economy? What are those relationships? Okay. So one question might be like this: is identifying gifted learners will contribute to the development of our country in what ways? Okay. So from this, you are now connecting your the area of study about gifted education, about gifted learners on economics. Okay. So by offering those questions, looking after the interdisciplinary relationships, you are offering also complexity on the curriculum. Okay, so we have the 8 strategies for bringing students with gifts and talents into greater depth, and 3 strategies to bring students with gifts and talents into complexity in the curriculum. And this one is a sample um, planning sheet for differentiating questions, okay, leading questions by means of depth and complexity by Kaplan. So, as if you are a teacher of a gifted students, gifted students, this might help you to outline your questions in each category of the method that I have discussed, making questions by means of depth and complexity. Now, Another method for teaching students with gifts and talents is the problem-based learning. So upon hearing problem-based learning, okay, so there is a problem that simulates the real life that needs to be resolved. Okay, so the core of the problem-based learning is the problem that needs to be solved. Okay, and students work in a collaborative group to identify what they need to learn to solve the problem, engage in self-directed learning, apply their knowledge to the problem, and reflect on what they have learned and the effectiveness of the strategies employed. Since the instructor, the teacher gives this scenario, you need to solve it. Okay? It's like, guys, I have a problem to you. Okay, here's the problem. You need to solve this by all your means, like that. Okay, but the teacher, the teacher will not abandon the students. In fact, students will serve as mentors or what we call metacognitive coaches to guide the students to solve the problems. It's like they are like thesis advisors. Okay, so they will recommend, they will suggest, but they will not totally give you exact answers on how you will solve the problem. Okay, so again, in problem-based learning, the central element is the problem that needs to be solved. And since you have the problem, one uh one approach to solve the problem is through a collaborative approach. So usually problem-based learning are given to um, a homogeneous group of gifted learners, and they are grouped together. If the class is so big, so merong dalawang team or tatlong team, whatever will apply. Okay, and they need to solve the problem by all their means. Okay, they will research, they will gather information, sources of information, because problem-based learning is a self-directed learning. Okay, self-paced learning yan. Okay? And then once uh they have gathered sources of information, they will apply those sources of information to the problem. So for example, the problem that the teacher has given them is like um there is um there is a student or a person. There is a person that has this coughing, uh nausea, diarrhea, okay? And then uh, you will need to find an answer or explanations why these conditions are happening to that person. Something like that. Because problem-based learning originated in medical schools in Canada. Okay, so what I have given is an approach that is medical in a way, but in a nutshell, that's how problem-based learning is. Your teacher gives you a problem. Okay, you need to solve the problem by researching. You guys go to the library, gather information, interview people if necessary, trace, something like investigate, and then once you gathered information, go back to me, and then we will have consultation like that. Okay. And one important thing in problem-based learning is that at the end of the process, the student will reflect. Okay. The student will reflect if the method that they have used was effective or not. Okay. That's the good thing in problem-based learning. Okay. So that in other situations that resemble that given situation, they might use those methods. Okay. So next is the project-based learning. So students solve a real problem, create a product, or often known as learning artifact that addresses that problem. Okay. So in project-based learning, it's quite this. It's not quite. Uh, there are some confusions between project-based learning and problem-based learning, and in fact, they are confusing also. So too many. But the I think the main difference is that in problem-based learning, the problem could be simulated. Okay, it could be um like hypothetical in nature. However, in project-based learning, okay, project-based learning, there is a real problem that needs to be solved through a product of thinking. Okay, so there is an evidence or something that the group should create in order to create a problem. I mean to create a solution to the problem. Okay? So students engage in project-based learning. Okay? So they work with real-world challenges, they solve problems in teams, they discover knowledge on their own without structure imposed by the instructor, and develops projects that are a result of this work. Kasi in problem-based learning, it's not necessarily that they have this product that will solve the problem. Okay? Oftentimes in problem-based learning, it looks after solving the problem. However, walang product na nire-require to solve the problem. In project-based learning, you have a problem and then you need to devise a project or a product that will have a solution on that problem. And one more point of difference is that in problem-based learning, the teacher gives you the problem. In project-based learning, the environment gives you the problem. The teacher doesn't interfere in creating and giving you the problem. No, the environment that you are in reveals you the problem, gives you the problem. Hence, it is called a project. 'Di ba? Parang if you have a project, you have something in your mind that you need you have want to achieve. Okay? So you will carry out a project so that something will be achieved. Kasi nga may nakikita kang need. Okay? So that's how these two um student-centered learning methods are different. Okay, but the central core, okay, the central element on these two, the problem-based and the project-based learning, is that there's a problem that needs to be solved. Now, one approach also or method used is um, use of triarchic approach. So teachers design lessons with three think, thinking processes that students with gifts and talents need to utilize when dealing with or when experiencing the lesson. So the teachers think of the analytical thinking. Okay, so teachers ask students to judge, compare, and contrast, evaluate, and critique something. The teacher uh, considers the practical side. Teachers involve students to use, apply, contextualize learning, and cre- creative thinking. Teachers involve students to suppose, invent, imagine, explore, and discover. So with these three thinking processes in mind, the teacher designs the lesson in such a way that it will be holistic in nature when it comes to developing the higher order thinking skills and the general high ability skills of children with gifts and talents. Okay. Okay, here, so we have tiered assignments. Okay. So, kanina, tiered questions. Ngayon, tiered assignments. So, tiered assignments is differentiating the content by assigning different content to groups or students, and all students need to reach the same objective. So, focus here in the figure 4.8, tiered assignments. Okay? So, you have this objective. Okay? Okay. So, you have this objective here. And as you can see, we have ability groups here. We have the above, we have the on average or the average, and below average, yung mga struggling learners. Okay? So in tiered assignments, by the way, assignments here is not the homework. We are talking about assignment of content. Okay? The tiered assignment of content, not assignments as the homework. Okay? So the premise here is they need to master the same objective. However, the way the content the way the content is presented to these ability groups, okay, are different. Okay, so here, as you can see, for below average students, the way the content is presented is quite easy. It's why here, oh, straight line siya. Yan, di lang straight. Straight line. Okay, madali. Madali yung presentation ng content. Ngayon, in on average, okay, in on average, makita nyo yung linya, medyo zigzag, okay, with a bit uh, challenge. Now, to students with above average ability, okay, talagang zigzag. Madaming challenge bago niya maabot yung objective. So, this is a simple illustration of how the content is is presented to students in different ability groups. And we will focus here in the above ability group. Okay? So the content here is presented in a challenging way. Okay? But it points to the same objective of the teacher or the same content of the teacher. Now, how to tier the content. So according to Conklin 2015, you need to know your students so that you can challenge them appropriately. You can do this through pre-test, questioning, or anticipation guides. Okay? So you need to know by means of assessment. So usually teachers before starting lesson or units, they carry out pre-test para malaman yung prior knowledge. Now, when you have the assessment results, choose three different topics, problems, or stories that are tiered for your class. So, yung sinasabi kong topics, problems, or stories, yun yung content. So, these are examples of content, okay, that are tiered for your class. So, nakita mo na, merong high ability group, may on average group, may below average group. Ngayon, gagawa ako ng content or kukuha ako ng content, ng references na magma-match doon sa ability nila para maintindihan nila yung content. Okay? So, most likely, yung content for gifted learners, challenging. Okay? Kumbaga, pag binigay mo siya sa on average or below average, they will not get it easily. Okay? But it does measure the same objective. Next, place students in the ability groups. Ayun na, may ability groups na, i-grouping mo sila according to their ability groups. Now, guide them to study, learn, work, and discuss what they have learned with group members. So, di ba, you gave the content of the lesson. Okay, here's the material. You need to read it. You need to analyze it. Okay, but they will not do it alone. So the teacher will walk around the classroom and then in some time will watch over the different groups to see how are they doing it, how are they analyzing, how are they learning the content that you are giving them. Okay, and then they will discuss among themselves what are their uh, uh, takeaways or learnings from these contents or these materials. And then after that, the fifth step will occur. Jigsaw the groups and let students become experts. Meaning to say, you will uh, break apart the homogeneous grouping. You will have heterogeneous grouping so that in different ability groups, okay, will be included in different teams, and then these students from different ability groups will share their learning to each other. Okay? So, for example, yung sa kanina, high ability, puro high ability. Yung mga average, puro average. Yung mga below average. Ngayon, iji-jigsaw mo sila, paghahalo-haluin mo. So, sa isang team, may dalawang may dalawang high ability, may dalawang average, may isang below. Tapos, since they are heterogeneous, okay, so, they will need to share what they have learned from the activity, from the content that they have studied on. So, that's how you tier the content according to count. Now, another way is using learning contracts. So, this is a written document actively crafted by the student, gifted student with the teacher that includes the content the student will learn, what activities will be completed, in what time period, and how the learning process will be assessed. It also details the amount of time it will take students to complete the task and the conditions under which they will work on the activities. Okay? And in the learning contract, they need to have a final project as an evidence of their learning. So basically, learning contract, it outlines the content, the focus of the contract. Anong topic yung pagtatrabahuan nung student? Ano yung mga activities na gagawin niya para ma-meet yung objective ng content? Okay? Anong time period niya gagawin yon? Anong time period siya um, engage dun sa learning contract niya? Is it after a whole class instruction or um, anong time schedule within the school day? And paano siya i-assess? May gamit bang rubrics? May gamit bang numerical grading, and etc. And it also outlines the time period, meaning to say the effectivity of learning contract. Okay, it doesn't mean that learning contracts will be forever effective. Meron lang siyang uh, time limit para masunod yung learning contract. So it's time bound. Okay? So may termination of contract din. Like the usual contract. Okay. So here are the tips for creating and implementing a learning contract. So first, you need to create a learning contract that matches or suits the learning needs of your child. Okay? That's the first thing you need to do. Okay? Because you will create learning contracts, especially if your student is that quickly completes your task in the classroom, and they need a higher or enrichment activities that will that will keep them busy at the same time utilizing and um using their abilities, their gifts and talents. So you might use learning contracts so so for them to be busy, and also to enhance more their ability and talent. Okay, so you need to know first the learning needs of your child. Now, second, you need to include personal interests of areas of study on the contract so that the student will have ownership of the contract. Kasi minsan effective din sa mga gifted learners na napapakinggan sila, yung interest nila so that they will be motivated to study and to accept the contract itself. Now, learning outcomes should be consistently demanding, broader, and more focused on higher order thinking. Given that they have this ability, high ability, so we need uh to level up also the content of the contract. Now, conduct a pre-test to know which students need a learning contract. Fifth, from the pre-test results, determine the content that is already mastered and the contents need to be learned further with the class. Because it's not always possible na alam na lahat ng isang batang gifted ang lahat. May mga points pa rin na hindi niya alam at kailangan niyang sumali sa whole class instruction. Okay? And then once you have noted the areas that needs to be discussed or needs to be studied inside the whole class setting, so you will inform the learners na okay, hey kids, these are the topics or the areas that you need to join with your peers or your classmates. So you need to sit in the class and study these things with us. Okay? And then, seven, meet with the students and discuss their contracts. And you can include agreed upon rules. So, kailangan, di ba, in the usual contract, alam mo, tsaka yung pipirma ng contract, kung ano yung mangyayari. So, you will discuss, okay, these are the topics na included sa contract na to. Ito yung mga gagawin mo. Ito lang yung time na ibibigay ko sa'yo. At meron kang 2 weeks, mga ganun. Usually, contracts are 2 weeks. Minsan, may monthly, ganyan. And you can also include agreed upon rules. So pag-uusapan niyo with pag-uusapan yung dalawa ng student mo. For example, yung behavior or yung schedule ng ano niyo ng consultation, something like that. So to make all things clear, you need to communicate the contract, the terms and conditions ng contract, ika nga. Ayun. So, you need to have an appointment to the student, check their progress. Kasi, mahirap na walang, walang consultation. Tapos, at the very end of the day, tsaka ka mag-check. So, the purpose of this is to check their progress along the way so that you can grade them. You can grade them parang unti-unti kung ano na yung progress nila para hindi mahirapan si teacher. Number 9, plan with the student a set of self-regulatory behaviors to implement the contract. So, in a learning contract, it's also proper that we not only enhance their ability intellectually, but also their skills, their skills that um, enhance their executive functions. Okay? Yung self-regulatory behaviors like kailan ka gagawa, um, ano dapat yung monitoring skills mo, that to say that you are doing it along the way, something like that. So you can talk with it with your student. And if the student has problems doing the learning contract, okay, yung parang hindi niya sinusunod yung contract, um, yung submission of work, hindi na, hindi na gano'n ka, ah, faithful doon sa contract. So, terminate the contract, communicate it with the child, and then rejoin him, the whole class instruction. So that quality education will be ensured pa rin. And provide options for demonstration of learning. So, ah, you include the child to the discussion kung ano yung ilalagay doon sa contract, as well as yung paano niya um, ide-demonstrate, ipapakita yung evidence of learning niya. Not only in pen and paper, pwedeng ibang tools naman yung gamitin niya or product or whatsoever. Okay? So, one big tip in learning contract, you make your student be involved in the creation of contract so that there could be an ownership of the contract itself. Okay, so this is an example of learning contract in the history class. Okay, so my name, my topic, ayan, nakalagay dito yung resources, ano yung objective niya. Okay, so ito yung plan for the contract work, ano yung gagawin, ano yung set of activities na gagawin. Tapos, nakita nyo dito, may product, okay? May selection of product. Ito yung sinasabi na give your student options on how they will demonstrate their learning, show their learning. So, ayun, may selection siya. Tapos, ito yung rules, okay? So, nakalagay dito, normal classroom rules apply. Then, ito yung time, due date. So, time-bounded siya, may limit. Okay, and then the signature. Okay, so, use of orbital studies. So, orbital studies are designed as a self-paced strategy to help students become independent learners. So, orbital studies focus on extension topics related to the curriculum content covered in class. So it's also a way of enriching or giving an advanced higher content to your child, a gifted child, lalo na kung talagang mabilis niyang makuha yung mastery, yung content nung topic, no? Content of the curriculum. So orbital studies could be one of the methods that you can use to keep the student busy at the same time enhancing their high ability. Okay? And then challenging them also. Okay, so orbital studies focus on extension topics that orbit around the previously or recently mastered content. Kaya siya tinawag na orbital studies. Yung studies na ibibigay mo, which is yung extension topics, it orbits around the recently concluded topic. For example, in social studies class, the class studied about the Philippine Revolution. And then, na-demonstrate ng bata na master niya na yun. So, an orbital study could be writing a war biography about the Filipino during this period. Okay? So, related pa rin siya doon sa pinag-aralan nyo. Kasi revolution, Philippine Revolution. Ngayon, magre-research siya ng isang tao, tapos gagawa siya ng isang account about a Filipino, for example, a Filipino general that was involved in the Philippine Revolution. So the basic principle is you are extending what has been studied in the class. You are not giving different thing to do that is not related. So it should be related pa rin. And here, the teachers are consultants who guide the students during the investigation. They also offer ideas for possible products of learning. So the teacher is a guide on the side. Okay? So, consultant, advisor, teacher dito. Okay, so this is an example of um, an orbital study plan. Now, we have finished the specific methods of teaching children with gifts and talents. Now, let's go with the accommodations and modifications. So, let's run through them. So, as you can see here, you will notice it's like you will think parang napag-aralan, parang na-discuss na 'to doon pa lang sa methods and strategies. Okay? The methods and strategies are connected to each other. So kung mapapansin nyo, may mga strategies dito na umaangkla or related doon sa mga methods because learned that strategies are in form of um, accommodations and modifications. And by uh, by discussing accommodations and modifications, we approach it in a curricular approach, meaning yung frame of mind natin when we are discussing accommodations and modifications, nakatuon doon sa tatlo, sa input, process, and output. So, anong gagawin natin mga changes kapag um, ang involved na is yung input or the content and the output or the assessment. So, modification yun. Kung yung process, yung involved, kung babaguhin natin yung process, ano yun? Um, accommodations yun. So, here are some uh, general strategies on how will you accommodate gifted learners. So, number one, provide opportunities for higher order thinking. Okay, so that's a must so that they can be challenged. Next, allow options for blended learning environments, given that we have a technology right now. So not only learn in the four sides of classroom, but also in our homes. So why not utilize technology so that there will be flexibility in learning. Next, do flexible grouping schedules in the class. Meron kang schedule for homogeneous, may schedule ka for heterogeneous, may schedule ka for one, independent. Okay? Next, provide students options for multiple formats of demonstrating learning other than pen and paper test so that children with gifts and talents will also be enhancing their other skills. Okay? Hindi lang puro papel at lapis ang demonstration of learning, may iba pang ways. Okay? So that they will utilize their creative thinking. Next, provide tiered materials when learning a content or objective. Okay? So that we can differentiate the content that we are presenting to our students, especially sa mga children with gifts and talents. So, we devise it in a challenging way so that they will be challenged also, hindi sila ma-bored. So, include in-depth studies of the content being studied in the class. So, you provide enrichment activities, you extend the learning, having depth on it. Allow extra time for thinking and submitting works because learners that are gifted, when they think, syempre, when you think, you need time so that you can come up with this critically sound answer. Okay? So, allow them to have thinking times. Kasi mahirap mag-process kapag you are eyeing for this high expectation to them, tapos ano lang, very short time lang yung ibibigay mo for processing. So, quality of time is also important for them to give you this um, high value product of their thinking and learning. Next, include intellectually stimulating materials in your classroom and in your lessons also. So you can have technology, e-learning tools, and primary sources when you are delivering in classroom or in delivering lesson and in your classroom itself so that they will be intellectually stimulated to explore those. Next, include student-centered activities on your class. Yun. So that they will enhance their critical thinking skills na sila lang yung gagawa. Allow gifted learners to present their ideas or products in the class so that they will be confident enough. And then they will be proud of their work itself. Consider team teaching, collaboration, or consultation with other teachers or experts. So, as a teacher, we should learn how to reach for others, for other teachers or experts on the field so that they can teach your children with real expertise. Okay? So, we need to learn to reach out for others to seek their advice or to tap them when it is necessary to teach these children, lalo na yung mga specialized bodies of knowledge. Next, assign special investigation assignments to gifted learners. Allow students to join extracurricular activities because extracurricular activities like contests, it also becomes an extension of their knowledge kasi natututo sila. Yung mga exhibits, yan, natututo sila. Act as a mentor and not as an information giver. Allow some time for gifted learners to be peer tutors so that they can use their ability to number one, to share their knowledge. Number two, to be socially, active. Kasi most of them are referred as nerds na hindi kayang makipag-socialize sa madaming tao. So, you can devise or use peer tutoring strategies or techniques so that they will be socially active na na-enhance yung social skills nila. Next, maintain an accepting and warm classroom so that underachievers would not exist in your classroom. Include activities that would enhance the social skills, games, counseling, other than peer tutoring techniques. Include pressing issues in your class discussion so that you can bring sophistication of the content. Okay? So, magbigay ka ng mga pressing issues, no? O malay mo, may mabigay na suggestions yung mga gifted learners that will help to solve those issues in the society and help the child to setting goals for his study that is smart. Because sometimes, dahil rigorous yung behavior ng mga batang ito to seek for knowledge, they need to be also helped to control their vigor, yung kanilang gigil sa ah, sa pagre-research yan. So dapat we help them to have goals in their study para hindi maging sabog yung educational experience nila. Now, we come here in modifications for gifted learners. So we mean by modifications, we change the content and the input or the content part and the output of the process part. So to provide modifications, so unang-una provide challenging and intellectually stimulating units or lessons in the curriculum and assessment. So as I am mentioning from the very start of this presentation that we need to level or match the content, the curriculum to the ability of these learners so that they will not be bored and uh, hence they will be challenged to think and then they will enhance their abilities. Provide acceleration of content when mastery has been demonstrated. Yun nga, para hindi sila maboard at hindi sila maging underachievers. Adjust the criteria for success if necessary. Always expect them a higher standard of learning. So, mahalaga yun na dapat na-challenge sila not only with the content but also the expectation of the teacher but not in an intimidating way. High standards. Expect communicate to them but not as a teacher not behave that you are very demanding. Okay? Act uh, with justice, kumbaga. If the child is highly gifted, change the curriculum through acceleration options, yung discuss natin kanina. So, pwedeng grade-based acceleration or subject-based acceleration. Provide activities that increase the complexity of the content being learned. Yun. So, by utilizing questioning strategies, by using the strategy of depth and complexity, and allow the child to participate in curriculum modifications by including his areas of interest. So isang mahalagang aspeto rin ng gifted education is that you involve the child to crafting his or her educational experience so that he will have this sense of ownership on his education himself. Okay, so now let's have here the materials for gifted and talented students. So the materials that we should use to students with gifts and talents should help them to generate, investigate, and synthesize knowledge, challenge them to think deeply, or enhance their ability. Okay, since they have this ability, high ability, so these threefold purposes should be embodied by these instructional materials. So they can be used to enhance their ability, to challenge them, to think deeply, and to create knowledge. Okay, so challenging materials, tiered instructional materials. So there are some materials na binibigay sa mga bata sa isang classroom. May mga bata talaga na mabilis matapos sa material na yun. And it means that the material is below their actual ability. Okay? So one way to provide a meaningful and challenging learning experiences is to tier instructional materials like the graphic organizers. When we say tier, so meron kang materials for the high ability group, on average group, and then below average group. Okay? So the content presented in the material is more complex that makes gifted students to think more deeply. Okay? So dapat yung material, it is presented in a way that will challenge them to think deeply. Okay? But there's a caution. Kasi may iba na ititier nila yung material in a way that they will offer many works to the child, to the gifted learner, para lang maging challenging yung material. That should not be. The material itself should be challenging in content to deal with. Okay? You're not going to make the material tiered to high ability groups to children with gifts and talents in such a way that will double or triple their work. Okay? Ang mangyayari dyan, the child will be frustrated. Siguro sa una, confident siya na matatapos na yun, na dinodoble mo yung work para maging challenging lang yun. Pero as the time goes by, marirealize ng bata na teka lang, parang china-challenge ako ni teacher by the means of doubling my work. Ang magiging tendency, hindi niya nagagawin yung work na pinapagawa mo. Okay? Or either gagawin niyo yung work mo pero paspasan, mabilisan. Kaya sila nagiging underachiever. So that should not be our frame of mind when we say challenging materials through tiered materials. Dapat yung material itself challenging na to deal with para hindi dumami yung workload ng bata. Okay? So, to have a clearer view, so these two materials here, so we have Venn diagram. So, figure 5.4 here. So, this is a material for on-grade, so yung mga average learners. Ito yung above average. Pansinin nyo, okay? The directions and the construct of the material. Kitang-kita mo doon sa mga average learner, merong merong mga choices, may mga guides sila. Okay? So directions doon sa on-grade level, choose two shapes from the shapes box below. Oh, yun, ito yung guide. Fill in the Venn diagram with at least 6 similarities and differences between the shapes. Use the attributes box for ideas. So, tignan niyo yung construct, okay? So, merong guide, yung material, kumbaga, the way how the content of the material is presented is easier. It's easier for students who are in the average group. Tingnan nyo naman yung sa above grade level, yung sa mga gifted learners. Dito, dalawa lang yung circle sa mga on grade. Dito tatlo, wala pang guides. Okay? So, you in such a way you present the same content, the same material that has the same objective. However, the way it is presented poses challenge already to the child. So, hindi na doble yung work ng child. However, challenging yung gagawin niya. Okay? So, that's tiered materials. So, usually magagamit to sa assessment materials or sa instructional materials kapag nagkaroon ng groupings. Now, technology integration. So, I have mentioned already the age of technology. So, why not utilize it as a material? So, technology integration offered gifted students opportunities for instructions specific to learning styles, self-directed learning, and exploration of new kinds of social interaction. So, those are the benefits. And technology provides teachers with multiple avenues to differentiate instruction. So the technology overall offers teachers and also students flexibility in the teaching and learning process. And blended learning environments emerge from the integration of technology in the traditional classroom, like the flipped classroom. So in the flipped classroom model, there is time for online and then on-site. And usually, there's an instruction happening in the online environment. And then, uh, students do their assignments in class when they receive help from teacher. Kumbaga, online yung instruction, yung may material yung bata. Pagdating sa ah, on-site, doon na ipaprocess kung ano nangyari. Okay? So may flexibility in in the teaching learning process if technology is integrated. So here's a model. So technology integration offers differentiation of content delivery. It also promotes social interaction. It also promotes accessibility to varied resources kasi napakaraming resources online. And it also differentiates demonstration of learning. Okay, so those are examples. So, example, pag nag-integrate ng technology, the content delivery is changed in such a way that is delivered through online courses, webinars, blogs. It promotes social interaction when students are engaged in, for example, promoting their project or promoting their idea. They used to connect with other people through social media sites, discussion forums, emails, chat rooms, so that they can spread their ability, their knowledge, their insights. It also the technology integration also offers accessibility to varied resources like the e-books, the journals, general sources of information that these students can use when they are carrying out their studies, and differentiated demonstration of learning. So, through technology integration, hindi na lang papel at lapis ang pwedeng maging source or evidence of learning. So, pwede nilang gawin through presentations, through audio-video presentations, PowerPoint slides, or something like that. So, there are other tools other ways to demonstrate their learning. So, ito yung nagagawa ng technology integration to students with to gifted learners. Okay, so these are the examples. We have the teacher blogs, audiobooks, ebooks, yan, online videos, online courses. We have the search engines, the web conferences, webinars, webcasts, and discussion forums. Okay. So pag sinabi nating blogs, these are entries that was created by someone and searchable. Usually, searchable. Okay, so may content doon and you can leave a comment. So usually teacher blogs, teachers create blogs so that they can present their content even if the child is at home. Okay, and also it offers flexibility nga doon sa teaching learning process. Search engines. Ayan, ito ang pinto. Ito yung gateway natin sa panahon natin ngayon, our gateway to varied information sources. So, program that searches for and identifies items in the database that correspond to keywords or characters. So, search engines are also good avenues so that these students with gifts and talents discern with themselves if the information that they are seeing or getting are authentic or not. So, tinutulungan din natin sila maging matalino sa pagkilatis ng impormasyon na nakikita nila. Next, the webinar. Ito, online meeting. Okay? Synchronous real time. Okay? Kumbaga, you have a seminar online. Okay? You have a discussion online. So, lahat ng learners nandoon, nakikinig sa'yo. Webcast. Webcast, ito yung mga recorded presentation na. Okay? That is uploaded in the internet that can be accessed. And discussion forums, these are message boards. Usually, they are also called message boards that allows members to hold discussion online. So parang may topic, tapos you can exchange ideas on that topic. Okay? Yan. So we have here the search engines, Google. I'm familiar with Google, Yahoo, and Bing. And Ask.com. Yan. Yun lang. Pero ang sikat dito is the Google search engine. Okay, so this is a sample of a blog. So let's have a glimpse of it. So, ayan, there's a content, article. Okay. Okay, let's wait. Ayan. So there's a contents there. So it could range from text to pictures to videos. Yan. And then, ayan. So may comment section. Yan. So you can comment. So if you use that with your learners with gifts and talents, they can also comment so that you have this feedback from your students. So this is a sample webinar, an interface of a webinar. So as I have said, it is synchronous real time. So online meetings, yan. So video chats. So it's also a way to enhance their socialization skills when they are in a team-based area of study like the project-based learning. Okay, this is a sample webcast. So, yun nga, recorded na siya. And then, you have presentation slides recorded here. Yun, sa interface. So, this is a discussion forum. So, ayun, as you can see here, yung nasa red, yan, ito yung topic. Tapos, ayun, magre-reply ka. So, you can exchange ideas on the topic. Now, so here are some evidences that from the researches about the impact of technology integration to students with gifts and talents. So, it allowed for multiple avenues of educational creative exploration. It allowed the assessment of abilities of gifted students. Kasi technology integration could also mean that there are some applications or games that will measure their general ability, like the strategy games, di ba? Online assessment could help teachers analyze the difficult points or the difficult concepts that their students dealt with by examining how many time, how much time did they allot for that question, for that unit. So it facilitates open-ended problem solving that allows students to think critically, promotes responsibility in their learning because it's self-paced, kailangan nilang kumilos so that they will learn on their own. Syempre, teachers and parents should work on this. They will collaborate to motivate more. Pero usually, students with gifts and talents are motivated naman, willing to use technology because it's new nga, it's unique other than the traditional way of teaching and learning. So technology serves as scaffolding tools to investigations. Online enrichment program fostered higher order thinking skills and social skills. Young gifted learners express strong interest in the subject area of online courses. Okay? Yun nga, online courses, technology integration, office flexibility, yung mga courses na hindi natututunan sa school, they are offered in the online coursework environment. It could also offer acceleration of the curriculum. And a virtual thinking community is possible. They offer time to critically think and reflect. And forums, discussion forums, provide more opportunities to think deeply, share ideas in multiple formats. So these are the research-based impacts of technology integration to the education of children with gifts. This one, okay, this one, use of primary sources. So primary sources are documents, artifacts or data, and first-person accounts created at the same time of the event are examples of primary sources. Kumbaga, these are the original sources of information. Contrasted to secondary sources, yun yung mga synthesized, integrated, like encyclopedia, almanac. They are not original sources. Rather, yung sources of information, the primary sources of information, tinransfer sa kanila. Okay? But they are not the original sources. Primary sources, yun yung original talaga. So, by using primary sources of information, we are inculcating to our students the practice of being complex in thinking. So, again, we are igniting their higher order thinking skills. Okay, because when we use primary sources, we tend to be an investigator, like a historian, okay, to interpret what's inside the primary sources. So we need sourcing, corroboration, and contextualization, which are originally methods of historians to finding information. And consequently, these skills are higher order thinking skills. Higher order thinking skills for students. Okay? So, in collaboration involves comparing, contrasting, sourcing. We are examining the bias and contextualization. We are understanding the primary source as if it was created on that time. Okay, so these are higher order thinking skills, investigatory thinking skills that might help, not might, but could help your students to exhibit higher order thinking skills. And it should be explicitly taught to your students when you use primary sources. Paano i-handle, ano yung process ng gagawin. Kasi these these materials are used in history classes, but it could also be integrated to other classes. So you need to explicitly teach to your students ano bang gagawin kapag may primary sources. Okay? And it develops analysis skills. Okay? So teachers need to support and scaffold their students. Okay? So these are examples of sources, primary sources. We have the proclamations, legal documents. We have the manuscripts, the letters, diaries, biography. You have the periodicals and maps and figures. Okay. And here we have the materials that enhance the ability of gifted learners. So as I have said, materials for them should also enhance their given ability. Hindi lang dapat matenga yung ability nila. It should be enhanced as time goes by. So we have reading materials. Okay? uh, as general sources of information like the almanac, the dictionary, thesaurus, and also materials for literary skills. Okay, like the novels, storybooks. Here's encyclopedia pala, one other source of information. Okay, so reading materials. Next, puzzles and games. Okay, so puzzles and games, these um, enhance the executive functioning of our children with gifts and talents, especially their strategic thinking, planning, organization. Okay, so and it also enhance their academic core skills like in literacy, in math. Okay, but usually these puzzles and games enhance the executive functioning skills, yeah, planning, strategic thinking, things like that. So here are some examples. Yung mga favorite natin, mga puzzle, chessboard, yan, word scrabble, crosswords. Ito pala, mga materials nito, it enhances the abilities of our gifted children. And materials, arts, and music supplies. Okay, so we have the art kits, the music sheets, music books, and also music CDs. Okay, so it also inculcates to them creativity. Okay, creativity not only in thinking or the academic side, but also in the aesthetic side. Okay, because we need to develop on them creative thinking in such a way that they will enjoy it. Okay, so these are the materials that will enhance their creative thinking. Okay, other than the puzzles and games, which also enhance their creativity. And here are my references. So thank you very much for listening to this recorded presentation. I hope you're doing good. Stay safe and good day to everyone.